Hi, Ben here from Supercoach Insider, going to unpack the Richmond Tigers against the Western Bulldogs this afternoon. Now, definitely a high interest game, and pretty much the whole thing came down to Richmond let the Dogs get out to an early start, and a couple of maybe shady calls, I think, at the end there, where I think Richmond might have been a little bit robbed, but definitely a good game to kind of get up and amongst it. Now, the issue, a little bit of rain, so particularly third quarter, it rained quite a bit. So you're looking at a lot of contested ball, a lot of people throwing it on the boot. So you're looking at if you can kick it to a contest and you can get tackles, then generally you score quite well in Supercoach. Now, I was a little bit concerned with Bontempelli, killed it early on. And there's a few things to note in here. So we'll start off with the big one of all, which is, of course, Tim English. Now, English was brought in by a lot of people this week, particularly for Darcy Cameron. If you didn't go Grundy, you went English, and pretty much we said this week you had to get in English, you had to get in Clary and try and find a way. So, look, killed it, 145 Supercoach, and the whole thing that it really comes down to, he got smashed in the hitouts. So he had 23 hitouts for the game, right? Lob had 6 to kind of chop him out, and when we look at the other side, so Nankervis had 35 and Samson Ryan had 10. So they got smashed in the hitouts. But the good thing, though, is that when English does get the hitouts, I have found a huge improvement in his hitout to advantage, so that then creates points in the hitouts that he does get. On top of that, he had 2 goals. Now, the first one, I think it was a bit of a stoppage. He started forward and just let up at the ball, and someone hit him lace out. Bang, perfect, got a goal there. And then the second one, he actually charged into the contest and then socketed it amongst a whole bunch of Richmond players and went through the goal as well. So definitely that helped his score because, when you look at when each team on there has 12 goals and he's kicking 2 of them, then that really does help with his scoring as well. And the important other part of that is that twofold. So number one, tackles. Now we had 9 tackles. So especially when it was wet, the ball comes to ground. If their team's not winning it, then he's hitting that tackle up, which I thought was super impressive from English. The other part was 11 contested possessions. So once it hits the ground, if he does get the ball out for a possession, it's then contested. So he scored really well from that. And he had a high kick to handball ratio. So when it's wet and you're a ruckman, you're just literally launching it. So what was happening is he had 17 kicks, 3 handballs, which is huge. And then marks, you have, lead up marks in 50, and then you also have the intercept marks, etc. So it was a very, very promising game from him. Only 3 clearances though, but and 4 clangers, but 85% time on ground. I thought he was extremely good. Now, if you don't have him, he's probably going to get up to about 650,000, just short, I think, on that. So the issue is that they do play in Adelaide next week and then Perth the week after. So you've got a couple of away games. I don't think they've left Melbourne yet, so it'll be interesting to see if he can keep that scoring up. I envision maybe a slightly lower score, particularly going to Fremantle when he's playing up against the double ruck there, and also a long flight. Now we know, he has had some injury issues in the past, so hopefully he comes out of that long transition to and from Perth in good health. But sometimes people can maybe rucks might not go as well over there, or they then might, when they come back, it's harder to come back from Perth for the following week. So let's see how he goes on that one. Now, speaking on the Bulldogs still, is Bontempelli got a 122, was killing it early, absolutely on fire, similar to last week, but at least this week he was able to continue that transition. Now, the interesting thing to note, and I'll tie him in with a McRae, is that Bont was starting in the CBA and then kind of pushing forward, which I don't think was that great. Bontempelli did have 12 tackles though, which I think was huge, and that definitely buffed his scoring there. So when you have a look, 17 contested possessions, 80% disposal efficiency, he did quite well enough, but the tackles is pretty much what really stood out for him in that game. And then McRae was actually starting half-forward flank, similar to what he has done before, and then pushing into the stoppage. So once it would, the stoppage would form, he would actually then push towards that stoppage. So what that says to me is that they really rate Bontempelli for that CBA and to try and link up and be that attacking option. So I guess a taller mid to kind of push forward from the CBA, and then McRae will then come up into that stoppage as well. So look, it's interesting. That does help McRae's chance, I think, maybe to get a DPP at some point. I don't know if it's going to be just yet because I think there's only one more round. Start of round 6 is where DPPs will be hitting you. So it'll be interesting to see if he does get it. I don't think he plays enough time in the forward line to get it for the first drop, but definitely the second one if his role stays the same. So that's the interesting one there. Caleb Daniel, welcome back. Bailey Dale, sorry. Caleb Daniel did okay. He's a little man. He's fine. He did all right from a draft team. Bailey Dale really did stand up, though. He had 21 kicks, 9 handballs, 7 marks, so he did really well as well. 625 meters gained, so he scored extremely well. Welcome back, because he had been horrible, absolutely horrible up until that point. The other couple to note here as well is that Liam Jones, 45 Supercoach, I saw him drop a couple of marks as well and just kind of fumble a little bit under the pressure with a wet ball. Look, he did okay, better Supercoach than he did for Dream Team. I think it was that sort of lockdown. Plus, they're also playing Richmond, so you have a couple of really good quality forwards in that team. So it's harder for him to kind of actually try and branch off a strong player. And when it's wet, you're not going to get the clear intercepts that you would otherwise. And then the other one also was Oscar Baker. So he had 72 Dream Team, 47 Supercoach. So he had plenty of disposals. He had 20 touches, 7 marks, right? But when we have a look at these stats, only 400 meters gained, so that's pretty good, but 60% disposal efficiency and 5 clangers, which is pretty much the issue. So wet ball again on the wing, maybe under a bit of pressure, but just wasn't as clean with it, which is why his scoring really suffered. So I take solace in the fact that he did get 20 touches and that on a dry day he could produce some more 80s, etc. So I think he's probably definitely a hold at this point that you could afford to sort of let some of those scores roll through, and he will reward you on the other side. So when we go across to the Tigers now, Rioli killed it. Now, usually Rioli, so Daniel Rioli kicks a lot of the footy because he's a good user of the ball, but he had 19 handballs, 10 kicks. 16 contested possessions. So again, wet weather footy, I thought he was instrumental. He had 80% kicking efficiency as well on a wet day. So I thought he was extremely good for that as well. Taranto started horrible, and I mean he was horrible. Hopper was on fire. Taranto was horrible. Pretty much did nothing the whole first quarter. Actually spent a bit of time on the bench as well, so I think they were sort of treating him a little bit, and came out and pretty much got most of his score through the last 3 quarters, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. Laid 8 tackles, had, I think it was 27 touches, so 12 kicks, 15 handballs. Not many meters gained, but did kick a goal late, which did help, obviously, inflate his score. That goal that he did kick late helped boost that up a little bit. But yes, I mean, it's 12 contested possessions, 5 clearances, 63% disposal efficiency, so pretty much standard Taranto is what we're going with. But definitely good as far as the scoring potential that he smashed it out in 3 quarters. So I think you're happy with Taranto moving forward. Now, Hopper was an interesting one. Was doing quite well in that first half. Contested possessions, getting the ball, getting amongst it. But I think the difference between both sides today was mainly tackling. When push comes to shove, who's actually going to be putting their body on the line to try and stop transition? And the Dogs had, I think, 3 people with 8 or more tackles. So you had, I think, was it Bonts with 12, Liberatore with 10, and English with 9. So that's pretty much those 3 there. Whereas the top one for the Tigers was Taranto and 8. And then it had a couple of people at 7, but it did taper off. So when you bring Bonts, Liber, and English into it, having more tackles than Richmond, I think that's pretty much where the game kind of was swung in their favour as far as the Bulldogs, as far as they go. All right, so when we have a bit of a look, so Hopper. So we had 24 touches, 50-50 kick to handball sort of ratio. Didn't lay many tackles though. I think had 2 marks, 2 tackles. Didn't, I guess wet weather footy and the rest of it. But there was still plenty of stoppages around where I would have liked to have seen him tackle a bit more, boost up his score a little bit to help, get in there. Now I don't know if it's because he came back from injury and how he had the knee soreness and the rest of it. So I guess tackling and putting your weight through your knee and then getting down, getting up, getting down, getting up, getting down, getting up for a 2-3 hour period might have been not ideal for him. So I don't know if it was a strategy because he was coming back from a sore knee that he didn't want to be getting up and down all the time. But I was definitely expecting more from him as far as tackling. Did kick 1 goal too, so could have been a little more. Look, I'm probably waiting to see his 124 still in his cycle, so watch him for another week, see if that tackling improves, see if his knee looks a little better, and then make judgment from there as far as Hopper goes. I'm just trying to have a little bit of another look here. So the other part, Nate Curvis, I guess, did well enough. Those who were sort of considering him, 97 was okay, but it's pretty much the English show, ladies and gentlemen. The thing to note with the Dogs as well, the split of Supercoach particularly. So we spoke about already where there's so many people that have a huge part of that pie. So you have English, Liberatore, Dale, Bontempelli, McRae, and then in other weeks, so Bailey Smith was only quiet with a 69 Supercoach. He sometimes fires off and goes huge, and Treloar, who's been known to go big already this season, also only had this 68. So that's kind of my concern with the Dogs in general, because they do kind of, someone will get off chain, someone will end up doing a bit of a roll, and each and every week kind of fluctuates a little bit, where you have some clubs where it's literally the same people standing up every week. So just keep that in mind when you are looking to upgrade out of anyone outside of, say, English and Bontempelli, who I think are going to be there. Like Libba's hit and miss sometimes. McRae, if he doesn't get DPP, probably a little bit hit and miss as well. Richard's the same thing with your Dales and the rest, where, they will fluctuate in little bits and pieces. So I think that'll be definitely something interesting to watch and note. Outside of that, I thought, like Charles Bolton was impressive as absolutely freakish with some of his ability, but again, hit and miss in some pieces. Same as Dusty. I thought pretty much Richmond just let the Dogs get out to, I think it was about a 28-point lead. Second quarter, though, Richmond dominated so hard and had a really good lead coming through. Dogs sort of chipped away, and then it was a bit of tit for tat in the fourth. And bit of a soft free, I think, on maybe it was Lob, I think, at one point, and then you had, I think it was McLean. Was it McLean? Not McLean, he's not playing. McComb, maybe? Kicked a goal. Yeah, McComb kicked a goal late, which I thought that was a bit sketchy as far as a free kick as well. So, look, that's it for this game. Definitely take note. Let me know what you think. It looks like Lynch might get suspended as well for taking someone off the ball. I doubt it. It didn't look that bad. But stay tuned for that one as well. That's it. Let me know who you liked from this game. Let me know if you brought in Timmy English this week. Let me know if you put the captain or VC on him or Bontempelli. And that's it from me now, and we'll talk to you soon. All right, thanks, guys. Bye.